Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the channel again. Happy Friday, and I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the 10th Life Skills Winter Series lesson. This is our last lesson for the winter series. Don't worry, I'll be back. But we're concluding this lesson by talking about healthy relationships. And part of it is going to be how to build healthy relationships, and another part is going to be how to resolve conflicts in a healthy way. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We have quite a bit of information to cover. And generally, when we're looking to build relationships with people, there are some qualities that we look for, and you'll notice that some of these qualities have very specific details. And these are sometimes qualities that you might share with that person. So, and these are generally more background qualities or talents or interests. So, your ethnic group, people generally tend to hang out with people within their culture, although, it's also perfectly normal to branch out and connect with people of different cultures and ethnicities and backgrounds and kind of get that benefit of a different worldview, a different culture, and kind of, develop a understanding of different people. There are some physical qualities that we look for in people. Some personality qualities are very important. Intellect, in some cases, can be very important. If you're an intellectual person, you would look for people who are around the same wavelength, who have a similar depth of thought, or maybe they're curious about the same things, or maybe they're just very philosophical and you like some of the ideas that they share with you. Political affiliation is a big one as well, whether you're a liberal or conservative or somewhere in the middle. Interests aren't really very important, but it's good to have a couple things that, or a couple interests that you share with the person, because you can do activities based on those interests. Talents as well. Musicians and athletes can hang out. You don't necessarily have to be hanging out with people who share the exact same talents with you. One thing that is important, though, one of the main qualities that you do want to look for in every person that you try to connect with is values. And these are kind of, guidelines and ways that humanity kind of functions. And so people have different kinds of values, but the main values that you want to look for are things like respect. Are they respectful towards themselves, towards others? Are they respectful towards you? Accountability. If they make a mistake, or if they make a decision, do they follow through with that, or do they take accountability for any mistakes that they make? Trust. Can you trust this person? Are they trustworthy, or have they given you some reason to doubt their integrity? Safety is another one. Of course, you don't want to hang out with somebody if you constantly feel threatened by them, or if you feel unsafe. And honesty is also a very important quality to look for. Unfortunately, it's not easy to identify honesty as a trait right away, which is why it's important to really take your time to getting to know somebody and really having conversations, having that back and forth dialogue, and kind of hanging out with them, getting to know them more as a person. So there's a lot of different qualities that draw people to each other, and most of us are going to look for some similarities that we share with the other person. Now, at first glance, you'll have some qualities that you go, oh, this person likes the same music I like, or this person also plays basketball, or whatever it may be. You might initially be like, oh, this seems like an interesting person. Let me get to know them. It's important to know, though, that some of these qualities don't really constitute as enough to build a friendship or a relationship from. It's a good start, but humans are very complex creatures, so it's going to take you some time and some effort and some consistency hanging out with this person to really discover their actual true qualities. And luckily for you, with that and with time, that's going to help you build a very strong, healthy relationship with that person, or it's going to help you know if that person's not really right for you or not a good match to be around you. At the base of all of this, kind of the foundation of all of this, is conversational skills. And so learning to develop good conversational skills, learning to be cooperative and do things with other people, having a good team ethic, for example. This is going to help you get to know the person better, and kind of see how you guys cooperate together and see if there's a match there. So as we talked about, values are generally what guide human behavior, their beliefs, morals, and they generally motivate a person to act one way or another. And in a relationship, like we said, you want to look for values like respect or accountability, trust, safety, or honesty. So obviously this person has to understand and support your individuality as well as their own. They have to be able to take responsibility for their thoughts and feelings and actions, especially their actions. And you want somebody that you can rely on, or someone that others can rely on or depend on. You don't want to be at risk of any kind of physical, emotional, or even mental harm from this person. And you want to look for somebody who's truthful, somebody who's genuine, not somebody who seems like they might be manipulating you into thinking that they're truthful and genuine. So there's several types of relationships that we develop throughout our lives. We develop personal relationships with our peers, so we'll develop friendships, or maybe we'll have somebody, one or two people who are best friends. You'll also develop professional relationships, whether it's in school with your peers or at work, coworkers or colleagues, or even relationships with your managers, or if you are a manager, you develop professional relationships with your employees. And then there are intimate relationships, significant others, husband and husband, or wife and wife, whatever it may be. These are more kind of in-depth, intimate relationships, and so you know more about each other. And then we have relationships that we were kind of born into, so relationships with our parents and our siblings and relatives. It doesn't mean that there necessarily has to be a relationship there, because that still has to be built on the core values that we talked about. There has to be some respect, accountability, some trust, some safety, and some honesty in that. So even if they're in your family, but they don't necessarily respect you or make you feel safe, you can do with that relationship as you please, according to whether or not they respect you or value you. So every relationship should have these values, and a relationship can either be healthy or unhealthy. So another person can be either a healthy addition to your circle or an unhealthy addition. And so it's up to you to really decide who you're going to let in, who you're going to set boundaries with, and who you just won't see again or won't hang out with again. It takes a lot of time to get to know somebody and to develop a healthy relationship with them. It takes a lot of conversation, a lot of activities together. If you share some interest with each other, doing those certain activities with them is going to help you build a stronger bond with that person. And that's going to give you a lot of good benefits. Specifically, healthy relationships are going to offer companionship, support. You'll get respect from your friend. Hopefully, if you have good relationship requirements, you'll have friends who are respectful and supportive, who allow you to feel safe. And you want friends who are going to contribute to your mental and physical improvement. And so, they'll celebrate your accomplishments, your wins, and they'll support you and help pick you up if you don't necessarily win, or if you lose, or if you fall down. They'll be there to pick you up and kind of help you out. And so it's really good to have one or two people in your life who you can rely on to be that support. Now we'll talk about resolving conflicts, because this is one of the biggest bumps that in some cases will either make or break a relationship. And there's usually two things at stake when it comes to a conflict. You have both people, each one has their own separate goals, and you also have the relationship between these people itself. And so let's assume you want to go to the movies with your friends. or you want to go to the movies with a friend, but they have some chores that they need to take care of. So now you have some conflicting goals. Your goal is to go to the movies, and their goal is to do their chores. And so those are two at stake, and the relationship itself can be at stake based on how you react to this situation. Now, there's a couple of ways that we normally react to conflict, and this goes for all of us. Sometimes we get wrapped up in our emotions, and so we'll deal with conflict in one of three ways. We'll either strike back, so we immediately become defensive and say, oh, you don't want to hang out with me? Then why are we friends? And so that would be kind of an example of a defensive striking back. And there's always an explanation, but when we get defensive and emotional, we kind of just assume the worst, even though that assumption could almost always be false. Another one that we do is we'll give in. And so we'll just throw our hands up and we'll go, okay, whatever, you know what, it's fine. In reality, it's not fine. Because what happens is, if you want to hang out with this person, you feel like they don't want to hang out with you, you're going to have a little bit of resentment towards that, but you'll kind of just let it go. Over time, though, this is going to build up. It's going to accumulate until eventually you have resentment towards that person, not really knowing why. Well, the reason is you've let all of these little instances happen and you said, whatever, it's fine, without productively confronting that person and communicating or talking about it. And that's important because you get a lot of those feelings, that pent up resentment. You get to throw that out of your body and cleanse your body of that the minute you have that productive conversation with your friend. Whereas if you just hold it in and you decide to say, whatever, I don't care, you do care. And over time, that's going to build up, and then you're going to realize you really do care. And by that point, hopefully you don't lash out to your friend, and you're able to work out whatever issue comes out from that. A third reaction, or common reaction, is we might step away from the situation entirely. So we'll leave the area or go home. So looking at our courses of action, we want to see if these are going to help us both achieve our goal, because it's not, oh, I want to achieve what I want, I don't care what the other person wants. In a relationship, you have to consider what the other person wants as equally as you would consider what you want. And so first, striking back, if we're saying, oh, if you don't want to hang out with me, then we're no longer friends, is this going to help achieve any kind of goal? Well, not really. No, it's going to create kind of a toxic negative dynamic between you and the person, because you're just assuming that they don't want to be your friend, when in reality they have a perfectly legitimate reason, which is to do chores. This obviously won't help maintain the relationship, and it can actually take a toll on your relationship. And there's only so much of that the relationship can take before you end up kind of ruining the relationship with that person, and then you end up parting ways. And so striking back, obviously not our best option, so we'll go ahead and get rid of that. Oop, did not need to do that. Well, you get what I'm trying to do. Now, giving in, or kind of just throwing your hands up and going, whatever, I don't care, is this going to help you achieve any kind of goal? Not really, because we still didn't figure out if we're going to go to the movies or not. Chances are it will help you maintain the relationship in that moment. But remember, as we said, that's going to build up over time, and that's going to create some resentment over time. And so it's maintaining the relationship for now, but eventually it's going to become a problem. And so giving in isn't going to be the best option for us as well. And then breaking off from that person isn't really helping you achieve any kind of goal. You're kind of doing the same thing as giving in. But you're also kind of creating that negative dynamic, that negative emotion for the other person. And so that's going to take a strain on your relationship almost immediately. And so it won't really help you maintain the relationship at all. So all of these are kind of going to be a bad idea. We don't want to do any of these. And so what can we do next? Compromise. Compromise is really good because you both kind of agree to give up something in order to satisfy both of your goals. And so you'll probably tell your friend, okay, then do your chores for like an hour, or you're the one doing the chores. So you'll say like, I'll do my chores for like an hour and then we can go to the movies together. And so one or both of you are going to give something up, or maybe give your goal up in order to satisfy the relationship, and both parties, end up being happy with the result. So we already crossed these out. Now, compromising. Is this going to help us achieve our goal? Well, partly. One of us is going to achieve our goal. So the friend who wants to go to the movies is going to achieve their goal, but the person who has to do the chores is only doing theirs for an hour. And so once they finish from the movies, they're going to have to complete their chores. So they're only partly achieving their goal. They've kind of agreed to compromise so that they can hang out with their friend. But is this maintaining the relationship? Well, absolutely, because not only are you compromising for your friend, but you're also building a stronger relationship by showing them, look, I have these things that I need to do, but I value our friendship, and so we can go ahead and hang out. So compromise is going to be one way to resolve conflict. Is it the best way? Not really. That position is saved for negotiating. Now, when we negotiate, both people in the relationship work together, coming up with a solution that's going to help both people accomplish what they want. And so you're turning conflict into cooperation. You're trying to solve the problem cooperatively, and this eventually creates a win-win situation for both of you. So instead of having your friend do their chores on their own, you can say, oh, all right, you know what, we'll work on the chores together, and then we'll go to the movies once everything is done. And so how does this bear? So we have our compromise. So that partly achieves our goal, but it does maintain our relationship. But when we negotiate, we kind of work together to adjust our goals so that we can achieve both goals and also maintain our relationship. And so both of these are going to be yes, yes, and ultimately this is where you want to get to. You want to get to a point of negotiation. Now, it's important to remember that communication is going to be huge because the other person is not going to be able to read your mind. They need to know how you feel and why you feel that way. So it's important that you know how to clearly communicate how you feel and why you feel that way, and make sure that you're using statements like, I feel like, instead of victimizing the other person and saying, oh, you know what, you always do this or you always do that. So the wrong way would be to say, you always ignore me, or you never want to hang out. And it can be really productive to just take that and not make it seem like you're attacking the other person, but rather you're attacking how you feel. And so you can say, I feel like I'm being ignored by you, or I feel like we're not hanging out as much, or I feel like we don't hang out as much as we used to. And so you see that you're not attacking the person, you're just upset about the situation itself. And so that's going to make the other person less defensive because they don't feel like they're being attacked anymore. And so that's going to make that interaction a lot more productive, and it makes it easier to come to a negotiation or a compromise. Obviously, this helps you resolve conflicts, not every single conflict, but when you respect and acknowledge the other person's point of view, and the way you do this is by listening to them, not just hearing them, but actually listening and paying attention. This is going to make them more inclined to listen to you as well. And it's especially important to keep this in mind when you're dealing with a person of authority, like a parent or a teacher, or maybe even a police officer or somebody that you work for. Even if you don't necessarily agree with the other person, and especially if you're angry or overwhelmed, you might not agree with them, but it's really important to take a step back and acknowledge that, I hear what you're saying. Just let them know that you hear what they're saying, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. And this is going to help you both work together to de-escalate the situation and work something out. So we want to change the you do this and I do this mindset into we can both do this together. The first step is to kind of keep your cool. Take a deep breath, count to 10 if you have to, do some focused breathing, and tell yourself, I'm cool, I'm not angry, I'm in control, I don't need to fight this person, I don't want to fight this person. So once you're done calming yourself down, you can calm the other person down, saying something along the lines of, this isn't really worth fighting over, I have nothing against you, and I don't want to fight. If you can, using humor is going to lighten the mood and de-escalate the situation a lot faster. Now, once you're communicating with each other and they're telling you how they feel, listen to them. Listen attentively. So look them in the eye, nod, say, I see. To whatever they say, try to repeat it to them in their own words. So you're saying you feel like I'm not hanging out with you as often. Is that right? And so you're not attacking the other person, and in this situation, they're not attacking you. Now, it's important to maintain a respectful distance. You don't want to be all up in their face talking to them. So maintaining that respectful distance and keeping your tone of voice even. Yelling almost never gets a point across. It just creates noise and upsets both parties more than they need to be upset. So keeping an even tone of voice. And then defend yourself if you need to. If you're not in the wrong and if you're actually right, defending yourself is going to be important. But it's important that you use I statements to explain how you feel and what you think. Remember what we talked about. You don't want to make them the person being attacked. You want to attack how you feel. So you'll use these I statements to explain how you feel and what you think, and give a good reason for why you feel as you do. Showing respect is going to be really important. Obviously, we use I statements, so you don't want to say what you think is wrong with the other person. You'll say something like, I see where you're coming from, or I understand why you might feel that way. If you agree with them, agree where you can, and if you've done something wrong, apologize. Don't just say, all right, sorry. Actually be sincere in your apology, because remember, this is somebody that you care about, and if you actually care about them, your apology would automatically be sincere, because you want to maintain that relationship. You don't want to damage it. And lastly, solving the problem together. This is the premise behind compromising and negotiating. So you work together. Each one of you will suggest a compromise. Okay, I'll give this up, or you will give this up, and then consider other possible solutions, or if you guys can both possibly negotiate something. I think negotiating is probably better than compromising, only because the other person might feel upset if they feel like they have to compromise and you haven't. And so you kind of just cut the middleman out and go straight to negotiating, which is technically both of you compromising. So we've reached the end of our presentation. Just as a quick wrap up, there's a lot of complexity that goes into human relationships. And so it takes time, it takes effort to develop and maintain something that's along the lines of a healthy relationship. And it's really important that we know how to communicate. Getting to know someone is going to involve communication. Resolving a conflict is going to involve communication. So if you're able to communicate your thoughts and feelings, that's going to make that relationship easier to build. And not only that, it's just very important to be able to do that in any situation, whether it's a personal, professional, intimate, or family relationship. And so in every area of our lives where conflict can occur, especially with our family and friends, it's important to know how to deal with this conflict properly. Compromise, negotiating, especially communicating, because this is going to make your relationship stronger with that person, and it will help you avoid eroding your relationship with that person or kind of breaking it off. So thank you for tuning into this session today. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for tuning into our Botfin Life Skills Winter Series. And I will see you all next time. Have a great weekend.